All right, welcome back to ABA, Exam Review, and the continuation of our RBT practice question series, where we're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack and practice exams. As always, when you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Anna just finished a paired choice preference assessment with her client. She identified a toy truck and a basketball as two most preferred items. In order to understand if these items are reinforcing, what should Anna do next? So we're looking at Anna, who's done a paired choice preference assessment. So a couple things to consider here. What is Anna trying to accomplish? Well, she wants to find out if these items are reinforcing, and the items are a truck and a basketball. Now, why doesn't Anna know if these items are reinforcing or not? She's already done the preference assessment. That's because the preference assessment doesn't identify reinforcers, it identifies potential reinforcers. So once we've identified preferred items, we now have to see, are those items actually going to change behavior? And that's the key. In order to understand if these items are reinforcing, if they're punishing, we have to look at how they change behavior. So for Anna, what is she going to do to accomplish that? A, the items need to be presented following behavior, and the behavior needs to be observed for future change. Exactly this. So now we have preferences. We have a truck, we have a basketball. Anna, following whatever the behavior is that she wants to see increase, needs to present the items, and then she has to observe, does or do those behaviors change in the future? So A looks good, but always read all of your answer choices. B, the items need to be presented repeatedly until they become reinforcers. We can't brute force reinforcement. We can't just present something over and over again and hope it becomes a reinforcer. It doesn't work like that. It already either needs to work as a reinforcer or we're going to have to pair it with something else. So B is out. C, the items are already reinforcers. Well, we know they're not because just because a preference assessment is done and items are identified as preferred doesn't make them have behavior changing properties. And that's what a reinforcer or a punisher is, are essentially stimuli with behavior change properties. And then D, she now must conduct a single choice preference assessment. There's really no need to. She's already done the paired choice. That's more than adequate. She identified the items. She now must present the items following the behavior, and the behavior needs to be observed for future change. Your supervising analyst tells you, a behavior technician, that you should give your client a sticker to put on their binder every 10 minutes. When you ask what the target behavior is, they tell you that you should provide the sticker regardless of what behavior your client is engaged in at the time. What type of intervention are you likely using? All right, so we're looking at the intervention in question. So you, or your supervising analyst and you're a behavior technician, says give your client a sticker to put on their binder every 10 minutes. So you're on a 10-minute fixed schedule. You say, well, what is the target behavior? Which is a good question. They tell you, provide the sticker regardless of what behavior the client is engaged in at the time. Now, that might seem counterintuitive or not consistent with how we normally treat reinforcement. However, what is that procedure called where we deliver reinforcement on a time schedule no matter what the behavior is? What do we call that? A high probability request sequence. High probability request sequences are used to build behavior momentum. We ask high probability requests or give high probability demands and then follow them with low probability demands or requests. That's not what is occurring here, right? What's occurring here is reinforcement on a schedule, no matter what. B, a low probability request sequence is not a term, so don't get trapped, and that's why fluency is so important. If you're fluent, you can immediately see that B is not even a consideration. It's not a term. So C, non-contingent reinforcement, is when we are non-contingently delivering the consequence. Now remember, the contingency or a contingency is an if-then statement. If something happens, then this happens. Non-contingent, we don't need something to occur. We're just giving the reinforcement. And that's what's occurring here. Every 10 minutes, no matter what, regardless, you're reinforcing. This is non-contingent reinforcement. And then D, the Premack principle or grandma's law, says you give the learner the chance to engage in a high preferred response if they engage in a low preferred response. We're not doing that here. We're simply non-contingently reinforcing our learner. Every 10 minutes, no matter what, we're giving that sticker. A group of kindergartners are learning safety skills in their classroom. Their teacher tells them to find the nearest adult if they get lost or if they get separated from their parents. In this scenario, what would represent generalization? Generalization question. The question is specifically asking about generalization and how we would identify generalization given our skill. The skill is safety skills and to find the nearest adult if lost or separated. So since we're teaching this in the classroom, how does generalization manifest? Well, generalization occurs when the taught response occurs in the presence of a different stimuli or an untrained stimuli. So, for example, if we go to the grocery store and the kids start finding the nearest adult if they get lost, that's generalization. The behavior is occurring outside of the learning environment in front of new stimuli. That's what we're looking for. So that's kind of the answer we're looking for. Try to predict your answers before even getting to the selections. So A, if one of the learners hid from a stranger at the grocery store, well, the skill is to find the nearest adult, not to hide. So A would not be generalizing what they were taught. B, if one of the learners asked a stranger for help if they were lost in the toy store, well, sure, we taught them to do that in the classroom. Now they go to the toy store, exhibit the same response. That is generalization. C, if one of the learners started to scream if they were lost in a grocery store. Again, not the skill that was taught and not what we want to see generalized. We want to see the skill that was taught start occurring elsewhere. And so in that case, the scenario that would represent generalization is B. We taught them safety skills. We taught them to find the nearest adult if lost or separated. So if they go and ask a stranger for help if lost in the toy store, they've exhibited generalization. There are negatives to every consequence. Which of the following would not be considered a potential negative or downside of punishment of a learner? So we're looking at punishment and the downsides of punishment. Remember, we want to start with reinforcement, but punishment is also an effective behavior change strategy. With punishment comes ethical concerns and monitoring and observation responsibilities. We have to make sure we're implementing punishment ethically and correctly. So there are negatives to punishment and negatives to every consequence, but this question is asking about punishment in particular. What is a potential downside of punishment? A, the learner begins engaging in aggressive behavior. That is definitely a downside or punishment. So we are looking for a negative or downside. We're looking for something that would not be considered a potential negative or downside. So even there, I read a little quickly. This is a good teaching moment. I read too quickly and skipped the not. Do not skip the not. You have to read very, very carefully, right? And so we're looking for the one that would not be considered a potential negative or downside. The learner begins engaging in aggressive behavior. Is that a negative or downside? Absolutely. We're looking for what is not considered a negative. Well, what about B? The learner's behavior is reduced. Well, with punishment, the anticipated outcome is the learner's behavior goes down. So that isn't a negative or downside. B looks pretty good. C, the punishment procedure requires a lot of resources. It does. You have to monitor punishment. You have to make sure it's ethical. It takes a lot of time and effort to implement punishment correctly. That is a downside. And then D, the learner may engage in avoidance or escape behavior. Absolutely. If you deliver punishment too often, the learner might just start avoiding you altogether. So what would not, remember, this is a not question. Once again, a not question. What would not be considered a potential negative or downside of punishment of a learner? Well, that the learner's behavior is reduced. That's the outcome we want to see. So again, another good example of why we read slowly. It's very easy to skip over that not if we aren't careful. Your workplace wants to decrease plastic bottle waste. Whenever they find a water bottle that is not recycled, they will fine the person responsible $1. This has drastically reduced water bottle waste in the office. What can be said about the $1 fine? Now let's think about this. We're talking about this $1 fine. The $1 fine is what? Well, it's a consequence of not recycling bottles. When they find a water bottle that isn't recycled, the consequence is to take $1 from the person responsible. Now think back earlier. How do we determine what the effects of the consequence is? Well, we have to look at future behavior. So after the fines have started, what happened to the water bottle waste? Well, water bottle waste has been drastically reduced. So if the behavior reduces following consequences, that is considered punishment. So what can we say about that $1 fine? A, it is an unconditioned punisher. Is taking $1 from somebody unconditioned as a punisher? Well, no. First, you've got to condition the money, you've got to condition the value, you've got to condition the punishment. It's not an unconditioned punisher, but it is a conditioned punisher. It's not C, it is not a punisher. And why is that? Well, because it's reduced water bottle waste, meaning it's punished the behavior. And then D, it is reinforcement. Well, that's also not true. To be reinforcement, some behavior would have to have increased. Since we don't get any increase in behavior, we don't have reinforcement present here. What happened was you wanted to decrease plastic bottle waste. So when you found a water bottle that is not recycled, you fine the person $1. As a result, water bottle waste is drastically reduced in the office. What can be said about the $1 fine? B, it is a conditioned punisher. Your supervisor set the mastery criterion at 4 consecutive trials of 80%. How many trials did I take to reach criterion in the following data set? So this is a trials to criterion question. With a trials to criterion question, it's exactly what it sounds like. How many trials does it take to reach mastery? To find that out, let's look at our mastery criterion. We set it at 4 trials consecutively, meaning we need 4 trials in a row of 80%. Mastery criterion is 4 consecutive trials of 80%. So now we simply look at our data. Don't panic when you see numbers. Data are very easy to read because all your information is right there. Your mastery criterion is 4 consecutive trials of 80%. How many trials did that take? All you have to do is look at your trials and see at what point did we hit 4 in a row. Well, we start with 80-80, but then 50-60. So we're 4 trials in, no mastery. But then we go 80-80-80-80. We get 4 consecutive trials of 80%. We've hit our mastery. How many trials did it take? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It took us 8 trials to reach criterion. Simple as that. All right, check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Let us know when you pass. Work hard, study hard. We'll see you soon.